And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba. Another season preview for one of the teams in baseball to get you ready for the fantasy baseball season. We're going to head to the AL West tonight to get you ready with the Seattle Mariners. And it's a fun team, young team, keeps building up team. They're always ready to make trades and sign people and do all kinds of cool stuff. And there's some fantasy relevance this year on the Seattle Mariners that's going to really get us going. In order to break all of that down, got a friend of the show to come help us out here. You can find his work he does football and baseball, tons and tons of work. 33rd Team Football, RotoViz for baseball. You got RotoWire, you got Baseball HQs, even in the forecaster this year. Like, talk about big time, folks. You can find him on Twitter at Corbin_Young21. Corbin Young, how we doing, my friend?
What's up, Bubba? Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's trying to get back into it. Once football is kind of over, it's like you got to slowly move my brain over to a different sport.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because your brain is a big brain. Like, I watched the way you you tweet things, you write things, like you get the analytics part of it, and you can go deep onto things. Like, you're very, very sharp on this kind of stuff. So I enjoy your content and taking it, and even just like with your tweets to kind of get my mind thinking, let alone your articles that are deep. But like one of your recent tweets, like Wednesday or Tuesday or something, when you said like a list of pictures you started looking at, and like you mentioned like Mitch Keller, I think was one of your tweets and everything. So it's like, yep, you're getting back into it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to, maybe I'm probably doubling down on Mitch Keller, but
Hey, we
it's
already
just like early list.
we already saw a video. He's working on pitches. You got to watch out. Like, it's already coming out. So it's that time of the year where, you know, not a bad guy to double down on because the talent's there. It's just, man, can you put it together? Just put it together. That's all we're asking for. So we'll see how that goes. You got anything coming up at RotoWire or Baseball HQ you want to promote, or are you just kind of getting ready to get things going?
Yeah, for Baseball HQ, some of the facts and fluke stuff starting up here. I think I might have one coming out next week or something. Usually do a few American League players. So yeah, that'll probably be coming out next week. And then after that, probably in February, I think it's almost every week we're starting to ramp up here. So yeah, mostly that right now. Trying to reassess, doing some coaching,
Yeah.
for my daughter and other things. So trying to reassess the life schedule before I commit to too many things.
What, you mean life gets involved? What are you saying, man? This is crazy. No, because you are a hardworking man. So I always wonder, like, people ask how I can do so many of the things, and I'm like, Corbin's doing a lot of stuff too. Like, he's going behind the scenes a lot more than you think. Because podcasting is one thing, writing an article, it takes a lot of time to get that research. So kudos to you, my friend. Looking forward to checking out those facts and flukes. Let's get into the Seattle Mariners, and we'll kick it off with the probably the funnest piece of the puzzle here, in Julio Rodriguez, who burst onto the scene last year, just took fantasy world by storm, took the baseball world by storm, which is absolutely amazing for the Seattle Mariners. Slowed down a bit in the second half, but still overall really, really strong season for J-Rod. 28 homers, 25 steals, hit 284. What do you got on him going into 2023?
Yeah, definitely exceeded my expectations. I don't know if it was just Jared Kelenic just kind of not getting not doing so well right off the bat. That kind of just tempered my expectations for especially a young rookie coming up and doing that. Yeah, I mean, definitely an elite player, right? Especially for fantasy, right? It's kind of one of the rare players that goes like 25-25 or possibly pushing 30-30. That kind of upside. Hit to the top of the lineup, hits lead off for them. If you want to pull Coles is mostly just kind of the ground ball, right? Maybe homer fly ball is too high. Definitely makes a loud contact, right? But play discipline concerns I've heard people kind of mention, with him, but I think there's a chance he's only like 21 or something, and definitely, some improvement there. I think he definitely deserves to be in that top five, where he's at, with the kind of, I know they got more track record than him, of course, but like Trey Turner, Ronald Acuna, Jose Ramirez. And I think he's definitely worth that. I guess you could go with safer options, but I think he's worth, go where the cost is right now.
Yeah, if you look at ADP on Draft Champions since Christmas Day, there's been 14 drafts. He's got an ADP of 3.14. He's gone as high as 1, as low as 5. So it's funny actually looking at it. There's 4 different players that have been drafted 1: Turner, Acuna, J Ram, and Julio. So it just kind of depends on the draft you're in to see where he goes. So yeah, you're right. It's he's a beast. He's awesome. Everyone, there's a group of people that say maybe there's like a potential, a little bit of, sophomore slump coming up, but I just don't see it with him personally. But I think he just get better. Like he's young, like he's just going to get better. You would think. So yeah, pretty solid floor with maybe a ceiling we haven't seen yet. like a 30-30 type ceiling, like you're saying. So lots of fun there with J-Rod. I made the joke earlier because everyone makes the joke that it's the dealing to Potos up there in Seattle, and they went and got Teoscar Hernandez this offseason. And we know Teoscar with the Jays was a very, very good middle of the order outfield bat for the Jays. It wasn't his best of seasons. He was a little banged up last year, but still finished very, very strong. And now he comes over to hit in the middle of the Seattle lineup, and it's a guy that could get you 20 plus home runs. You've seen 30 before, steals a few bags. He could be a big time run producer in that lineup. So what are you kind of thinking or expecting out of him in Seattle now?
Yeah, I did digest the trade, but I was a little attached to Eric Swanson, but it was probably just I don't know why I like weird pitchers like that. But after thinking about it from like a real life and fantasy standpoint, like we needed a bat like this, right? Like the Mariners needed a bat like this. Offense was definitely an issue. So adding a guy like that while you swap out someone like Mitch Haniger, not that they're the same player, but they can kind of fill similar holes in terms of offensive category production, batting average, some power. I mean, Teoscar's clearly got more power than Mitch Haniger. Some could argue that it might be a little BABIP driven, but he traded some of the ground balls for line drives. Definitely a good athlete, like steal some bases, like you said. Play discipline might be a concern, but he's definitely a target of mine. I mean, I don't know why I'm going to these ceiling comparisons, but I think like Aaron Judge season is, I think, within the cards with someone like him, right? Like, I mean, not 62 home runs, but something where we see something where he stays healthy, compiles all the plate appearances, massive, home run boost or something. I think he's got that within the range of outcomes. But even if it's just something similar to, projection show, like, I mean, that's respectable. I think there's more juice in the batting average than, some of the projections I might be giving him, projecting for him though.
Yeah, he's such a pure hitter that I can see the batting average taking a jump as well. He hits the ball so hard. Like I don't know if he's a shift guy. I haven't even really tried to figure all that stuff out, but he's just such a good hitter that I could see the average coming back up, keep the pop in there, be quite productive. ADP of 76. He's not costing you a lot. That's a good spot to get maybe even your second outfielder, if not your first outfielder, and get some run out of them. So I definitely like the Teoscar move. I've always been a Team Teoscar fan, so I like that move for him heading to Seattle. Ty France. This is a fun one because Ty France, with San Diego and in the minors, is a big time power bat. And he kind of finally got playing time. It was kind of, it was good, but not great. Last year we saw it even more, 20 home runs. He kind of took another step up. But one thing he's done is hit for average everywhere he goes, hits the ball really hard. I like his plate discipline. I don't think that gets talked about enough for a guy like Ty France. So what do you see with him? He's a guy that they have projected to hit potentially second in that lineup right now. And that could become a big run producing situation for a guy with his contact skills.
Yeah, he's definitely a bit of a compiler, right? He's got a ton of plate appearances past couple years. I think he was like maybe 8th among first baseman past 2 years in terms of plate appearances. He's just a good hitter. I probably it's not really data driven, but there are a lot of times where I watch him games and he just gets some clutch hits when it matters, from a real life standpoint. Great play discipline, like you're saying, just a really good hitter. I don't think the power ceiling is quite there. I think 8 to 20 is probably a safe range, but yeah, if you're going to hit at the top of the Mariners, improved lineup, that's definitely going to, you could easily do like 100, 150, 160 runs plus RBI or something in there. So yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to Eugenio Suarez. This is a guy that's like, okay, everyone's, he does for a bad average, blah, blah, blah. He hit for a really bad average like once or twice. Otherwise, he's usually actually hit pretty well. And last year kind of got a little bit of a bounce back after 2 rough seasons. One thing you're going to get from him, Corbin, is a lot of power. That's what you're going to get, a lot of power. So how are you approaching Eugenio Suarez in your 2023 season? Like, are you just going to build batting average elsewhere and take the power, or are you just kind of avoiding him because there's concerns with Suarez?
Yeah, he's the guy that I definitely liked in it last year. I put this in our notes, but he was just a guy that, I kind of had be a little more patient with someone coming off shoulder surgery. And so he was about 2 years removed. I think there's definitely an argument to be made that, coming off of shoulder surgery can definitely impact some hitting mechanics and some power. I think he definitely stood out because before the shoulder surgery, he's one of those guys that had like one of the tightest launch angles. I think Alex Chamberlain had this like old article in Fangraphs maybe in 2019 or something, just showed some of the hitters with like the tightest launch angles, and he was on there, with like some really good hitters. So it's kind of one of those things where, and then I looked at that after, before last year, and it was just so wide, like it was just so drastic. So not that those two are connected, but that was kind of my theory there. Yeah, I think, we're not going to get the 270, 280 kind of prime batting average seasons anymore, I think, at this point. But definitely kind of that, yeah, like you got to bake in that batting average risk there, because he's turning into that prototypical power hitter, pull heavy, high fly ball, nearly at exit velocities. Um, yeah, I'm trying to see if there could be some, the hard part is he just hits too many fly balls at this point. I don't think the batting average is ever coming back.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Is he's adjusted his, I guess I don't know, skill set from what he once had. Like you said, if he's a heavy fly ball guy, especially in Seattle, it's not going to bode well all the time there. So that could come to fruition. But he that power, it's hard to find at his point in the draft. So if you can adjust batting average elsewhere, that could be pretty big. Another player that the Seattle Mariners traded for this year is Kolten Wong, a guy I've always been a fan of. Always thought the skills were good there, especially at his draft price. It's always just doesn't get the respect, I think, come draft day, at least me personally. He's got like 15 upside to me year in and year out. What are your thoughts on him going to Seattle? There's rumors of him potentially platooning, which I don't see him. If at worst, it's the strong side. But how do you see Kolten Wong playing out in Seattle this year?
Yeah, first it was kind of like when I first saw the trade, I was like, okay, and I was trying to think through, but I think it filled a need, right? They don't have Adam Frazier anymore. They kind of need a second baseman. Abraham Toro, bench utility guy. Like there's just no, yeah, he missed a ton of time with a calf injury about a month or so. I kind of looked at some of the splits. I mean, he doesn't really hit the ball hard, but I would guess that maybe the calf injury is definitely bothering him. I used to see, this is where the data comes in, right? It's like I used to think of him as a solid defender, and he was like god awful last year on defense. I mean, hopefully it's just something that he can work through.
Maybe it was the calf, hopefully.
Yeah, not be that terrible. Even if he's just, not that great anymore, I don't know if the Mariners can really afford to be playing anyone else there. Even if it's a strong side platoon. And like you're saying, it's kind of that 15-15 profile or 12-12. It's nothing exciting, but it's something, it's like, especially at second base, like it's going to be something where, you're going to you'll plug him in if you need to, but I wouldn't be like relying on him all year. You definitely want to see that. I mean, he's probably going to get platoon with Dylan Moore or Sam Haggerty or something. The bench for the Mariners looks a little concerning. I like the starting lineup, but the depth after that looks a little concerning.
Yeah, it's like I heard the Dylan Moore thing too, and I'm like, yeah, I get it if it's a lefty on the mound because Wong isn't the best for his lefties, but it's like Dylan Moore. Like I think we've kind of seen who Dylan Moore is, but maybe that's what he's best used for is face lefties and call it a day. The Wong thing, that defense, I haven't looked at that because I remember writing him up for an article somewhere when he went to Milwaukee from St. Louis, and he was like one of the best defenders in all of baseball at second base. So I wonder what happened, if it was injuries, just getting older, or what it was with him. Because yeah, I'm with you. He used to be one of the best defensive second basemen in all the baseball. So to hear you say his metrics just went to garbage, basically, that's pretty crazy. Thinking he fell off that far, especially with the pitching rotation that we'll get into that the Mariners have. You think they'd want to shore up that second base, up the middle defense. So interesting point there. And when I'm saying draft him in leagues, that what I like to draft him is like my middle infield, late round. Like I'm not relying on him for everything, like you're saying. So good point there. Let's go to the catcher's position here. Cal Raleigh, big season. Didn't hit for average, almost Mike Zunino-esque with what he did. 211 at that average, 27 home runs, though. We saw him hit for some power in the minors from time to time. Batting average has really never been his friend, though. So people are drafting him, I'm not saying high, but pretty high for a catcher. How do you foresee Cal Raleigh in 2023? Because I'm kind of nervous with that batting average and swing and miss he has.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got the best nickname, right? Big Dumper. I mean, I can't get that out of my head every time I think of that guy. But I put a note in here. Just every time I look into some players like this, I like to look at some of the RotoWire player pages, just see what the news said. I remember he hurt his thumb while catching or something. I don't know if that's going to impact him, heading into next year. That could obviously impact some of the defense, some of the power. But he does really dominate on one side of the plate as a lefty. He pulls a ton of fly balls on that side. He hit 24, 27 as home runs over on the left side of the plate. But obviously way more play-to-play appearances as a lefty. Yeah, exit velocities are near elite. Might not be able to sustain some of the home run to fly ball rates. His fly ball rate is like way too high. I think that needs to level out a little. We can't really be hitting the fly balls over 55% of the time. That seems like a little excessive there. So hopefully some regression there. I heard the Mike Zunino comps too with batting average, drain, and stuff. But I was scanning through the forecast there, and they have a pretty optimistic XBA for him, about 243.
That's not bad.
So
then.
yeah, so some projected improvement. I mean, even if it's 240, 235, I think that's probably okay. Catcher, I know there's a big discussion about catchers, like, do you get them early, do you wait? I'm not a huge fan of two catcher leagues, so I usually just wait because I can't stomach the part-time catchers. But then I think there's some value in trying to get a guy like Cal Riley that's probably going to play almost every day, or 75% of the plate appearances for catcher, and has elite power. We'll have to see. Obviously, he's going to hit home runs. It's just kind of you're going to have to stomach some of that batting average, but maybe the plate appearances outweighs kind of the, terrible batting average, because after the first 7 or 8, catcher kind of falls off. So
falls off quickly. So if he plays 130 or so games, and maybe he does get to that 240-ish area that the forecaster has, that could be pretty solid, all things considered, when it's all said and done. Another acquisition for the Mariners this year. This was a signing, though, not a trade. AJ Pollock. And this is one that I've had some people say, oh, you're crazy. And then other people go, oh, you got a point here. It's I look at him, and I know health's an issue, but played 138 games last year, which is the most he's played in since 2015. So I'll take that as a yes. But still has a little bit of pop, can hit for a little bit of an average. He's not a world beater, but you're not paying a massive draft day price for him either. How do you see him playing out in Seattle? Because I guess the biggest concern would be him potentially platooning or something. But like you mentioned, there's not a lot of depth on that bench right now. So as long as he's healthy, I think he gets the shot, but you probably have a better ear on this than I do.
Yeah, no, I was surprised too. He only hit the IL one time with a hamstring injury. Didn't have another injury for the entire 2022 season.
Wow.
I feel like that probably is rare for AJ Pollock. Second most plate appearances, of his career last year.
Yep.
He's definitely aging, turning about 35 years. So, high ground ball rate, doesn't hit a ton of, home runs. So, but plate discipline's okay. He's definitely declining some power skills, probably more of a hitter streamer in your deeper leagues, maybe, I don't know what his ADP is, but maybe fifth outfitter, bench back kind of guy that you're kind of streaming in and out of there. He feels like a kind of guy that you pick up on the waiver on 15-team leagues, and you just ride a few, good matchups here and there, ride a streak here, and then you just kind of, churn it if it's not there. He is slotted in at DH for the Mariners. And they definitely need kind of a, a extra right-handed bat there, but it might help his health and playing time at DH. So, but yeah, I think he kind of fits in. He's not a super sexy name. He's not, someone that's going to win you any leagues, but he might be kind of sneaky, decent, maybe maybe not the same, but like a cheaper, maybe he's not cheaper, maybe a Andrew McCutchen light kind of guy, where it's just a pretty decent hitter, give you a little bit of home runs, maybe not as many steals or anything. But
it's funny you mentioned McCutchen, because Pollock's going about 438 right now. Kutch is going 430, so they're going right next to each other. So yeah, it's a good comp, a really good comp. McCutchen, they both have the starting job for now, but we'll see where it goes. Seattle's obviously a better team than Pittsburgh, so interesting comp, that's for sure. Definitely something to keep in mind. The last bat that I have highlighted, we'll talk about a few more here in a second, is Jared Kelenic. And this one is just it's frustrating. I know it can be more frustrating being a Mariners fan, but it's you can see the talent at times, and then it just kind of disappears. He looks lost. And Ryan Bloomfield had his first speculator of the year come out on Wednesday. We're recording this Wednesday night. It came out, and there's a little spot in there about Kelenic. So What are you thinking about him coming in 2023? Because he's not costing what he used to, so he's kind of enticing to me.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have to check out Ryan's article there. Yeah, I did his blurb in the forecaster, so I'll just kind of summarize a little bit. What I put in there. Obviously, when he was a top prospect, fell real hard again. Dreadful batting average, had some power and speed. Power metrics took a step forward. Contact rate improved a little bit in the second half. Problem is the samples are so small, right? Like he comes up for a little bit, he struggles, they send him down. Comes up for a little bit, goes back down. Past couple years. There are a couple of home runs that stick in my mind where he's like pulled them right down the line and hit the foul pole, and I'm just like, like that's
Yeah.
nice, but
Yeah.
not. It's like you're sneaking one in there that you probably shouldn't be sneaking in there. Um, so it's hard to really find some, actionable takeaways. The only thing I kind of noted in the notes here is that hopefully the contact rate improves a little bit more, maybe fewer fly balls, right? Like maybe, elevating it a bit too much for him there. Um, I think there's a chance where, the upside could be like 15-15 with a kind of brutal batting average, maybe like 210 or so, 220. I mean, obviously that'd be a big step forward coming from where he was at already. But yeah, if he can, make some slight improvements, even if the batting average is poor, he definitely has the skills to, put up some of the power speed to kind of buoy that fantasy valley, right? A lot of times there's players at the end of the year, like you look at their line, and you're like, whoa, how did this guy
Yeah.
finish the season, well, with this much earned auction value or whatever? And it's usually because they got some speed or they chipped in, some home run and some speed, and they weren't, they might have been terrible otherwise, but
Yeah, no, he's a tough one. So I'm inclined to give him a shot. Like you said, he's still young. He's still young. So it's like there's time to establish. And one thing you said that I really take in is it's not even just the all the metrics and everything. It's been such small samples. Like how can a young player get established in such small samples? That's the frustrating part. And the Mariners are contending, so they can't afford to let him slump it up. But it's like they almost need to start the season and give him a good run and see what he can do and go from there. So we'll see what happens there. Any other hitters worth mentioning? You see, you have a few down here in the notes that you'd like to bring up real quick.
yeah, like I mentioned, the depth is just not great, right? So like the most, relevant guys are like Dylan Moore, Sam Haggerty. We've seen them pop up 15 team, 5 outfielder leagues, here and there. They both kind of have some power and speed. Dylan Moore is more of the sexy name because he has like the exit velocity stuff. Sam Haggerty's more a little bit more of a batting average guy, but mostly just utility guys. Yeah, like I said, the depth is definitely lacking as I kind of digest the depth chart a little bit. Even some of the prospect like hitters, I don't really strike me as like guys that are gonna make a big impact. So there might be more moves, but as of right now, yeah, not just kind of more, nothing too exciting to draft.
Oh, that let DePoto figure it out. He'll make some moves if needed. Let's go to the pitching staff here for Seattle, and this is where it gets fun too, because Luis Castillo, who I think most fantasy players slash baseball players have always liked Castillo and always said just get him out of Cincinnati. Well, what better place to go to than Seattle? And he flourished in Seattle, was outstanding, and he basically has earned the ace moniker almost even in fantasy circles. How do you foresee him having a full 2023 season in Seattle this year?
Yeah, he's another one that I wrote up his forecaster box, and I definitely was like impressed, and I was like, okay, I think there's something here, right? Um, he had a shoulder injury to begin last year. I think we could have seen that career year if he hadn't had the shoulder injury. Obviously, we didn't know the Seattle trade was happening, but if we kind of look at like if he were to pitch more innings, I think we would have seen a career type year. Um, Swap changeups for more four seamers. Had better K minus BB gains. Fewer ground balls with the four seamer, but the xERA, xWHIP are all kind of aligned with final line there with the actual ERA and WHIP. Best swing and strike rate on the four seamer, up over 4% points. I do like that he, not so analytical here, but I do like that he kind of used a pitch that isn't so predictable, right? We're so used to the changeup and the sinker, and it kind of just like runs the same way. So I do like a pitch that kind of changes, maybe the view for the hitter and stuff like that. I think Seattle's done a really nice job on the pitching end. Just kind of, I've liked what they've done with some of the pitching development, especially of the young guys and any of the guys that come over. So I'm definitely kind of trusting them um, as one of the better kind of pitching development organizations. But maybe they don't have the same value or name recognition as guys like the Dodgers or the Marlins or whatever. All these other teams that we think of, but I think they have something good going on.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think you know, there's potential career best season. I don't want to say this too loud, but I think he's a steal where he's going right now. Uh, I think
I'm
I
with you.
tweeted something today, and Will Garofalo was like, "Okay, delete this tweet right now." So, uh, but I think there's definitely, if I'm waiting a little bit, I'm on SP, or if I can get Luis Castillo my SP2, I'm all over that. I think there's a career best season incoming here of like 200 inning picks, 200 plus strikeouts. So
That'd be outstanding. Yeah, 'cause he has ADP of 63 right now. He's probably like the eighth or ninth starting pitcher off the board, if not even farther back than that right now. So yeah, it's a really great spot to get some value there with Luis Castillo. So I'm with you there. I can't wait to see how his ADP changes because I think more and more people are gonna have to catch on to just how good he is. I think it's coming, but maybe not. It's pitching's falling so far in drafts, so maybe it stays that way. And I think you're onto something about the Seattle Mariners building a great pitching philosophy or whatever you want to call it there. There's a couple young guys we'll talk about shortly. It makes a lot of sense for what they have going on there. Let's talk about Robbie Ray, who came over from Toronto last year and come off the Cy Young season. I don't think many people thought he could be that good, but he was still very, very good. Very good. The strikeouts are there. He's an innings eater, like you'd hope for. Ratios are still fine. They're not the like high twos. They're more like mid to high set threes, but still very solid stuff. So, what are your thoughts on Robbie Ray, who's kind of done it back to back seasons now, where when he was with Arizona, it was always walks, 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 and he's kind of showing us that he's become a different pitcher now.
yeah, like you said, definitely a workhorse, right? Like definitely, even better than earlier in his prime years or better years in Arizona, right? Yeah, I think the in 2021 it was just pounding the zone, just kind of pounding with the stuff and just like letting hitters hit it. But yeah, definitely it's just a couple interesting notes. Robbie Ray lowered the four seamer usage, down almost 20 percentage points from 2021. And kind of increased the slider and the sinker. The sinker was probably most notable, kind of went up quite a bit. Wasn't great, from a result standpoint, 530 slug, 406 wOBA. But could be another thing where he just kind of locating it, putting it in a different spot, and it's kind of giving it a different look for some hitters, serving its purpose, inducing ground balls. But yeah, it was kind of interesting because he hadn't really used a sinker that much in a really long time, since like 2015. Not that that's going to translate into strikeouts, but maybe it helps lower some home run rates, although home runs are always a problem with Robbie Ray. But so
Yeah, always a problem. But like then again, that ballpark don't walk as many guys. They instead of 2 and 3 run homers, get the solo homers. We can live with that. We can live with that from Robbie Ray. So I was kind of out on him last year because his ADP went so high after the Cy Young season. I'm kind of happy where he is now. Like I can live with Robbie Ray, especially as my SP2 or SP3 if you want to get real aggressive on pitching. He's not a bad option there for sure. Now we get to the young guns, and we'll start with Logan Gilbert, who 2 years ago kind of got their late season ups and downs. We saw like some of the stuff that was great. Some of the, hey, it's first time around the bigs. Last year, phenomenal. Low 3 ERA, pitched 185 innings, which was outstanding. I think personally he can take another step potentially. Like this guy is really good. You'd have better ideas of this than I do. So what do you think of Gilbert in 2023?
yeah, a couple of quick notes on Castillo and Ray that I forgot. Usually you think of Ray and Castillo like their whip sucks, but like
Mhm.
actually it's been a bit better the last couple of years. They've kind of lowered their walk rates past couple of years, limiting the hits. So don't think of Luis Castillo and Rob Ray as like guys that just like destroy your whip anymore. They could be like league average or okay, right? So yeah, Logan Gilbert. The Mariners had this philosophy. I remember Jerry DiPoto mentioning this early on, and I don't know why it just stuck in my brain. But I remember at one press conference he talked about just like controlling the strike zone. It's kind of a philosophy for this team, and that seems to be generally, kind of the type of guys that they try to bring in or draft or have. Logan Gilbert, George Kirby fit that mold. Ty France kind of fits that mold. Guys are they're limiting the walks or they have good plate discipline and stuff like that. Gilbert's a big dude, right? 6'6". He doesn't have overpowering stuff, but he really has good command. Overall swing and strike rate dropped a little bit, but like you're saying, took a pretty big workload jump from 2021 to 2022. And slider and changeup, didn't perform as well as the rookie year, so that could raise some red flags. I think what you're saying, there's a couple scenarios that come to mind, right? Like there's a scenario where Gilbert's stuff improves and, especially on the non-fastballs because the four-seamer is so good, maybe takes a leap up, right? Maybe there's another level in terms of strikeout rate. I think there's another scenario where he's just kind of that guy that maybe the stuff's not overpowering, but the command's so good. I hate to use like a Kyle Hendricks, but just a guy that can kind of outperform some of the expected metrics, and kind of continue to do that. But yeah, the trouble is he goes in this weird range of pitchers, or not weird, but interesting, right? Like where it's like there's, you could be buying the bounce back, or you could be buying the next guy we're going to talk about, or you're gonna pay it for someone that you feel a little bit better out. I definitely do like him. I definitely kind of liked him coming to the year. I do like that they're not relying on him as like their primary ace, right? Like they've added Luis Castillo and Robbie Ray, of course, obviously, the past couple of years. But I think if he was to be like the real life staff ace, that might be a problem, in the long run, because he's just not that. If you think about like a 3-game series or something in the playoff, he's just not a guy that you're going to be like, all right, this guy's gonna, he's not Justin Verlander or somebody that you're going to put out there that's just going to, dominate the game. But his command is definitely really good. So I like the, again, he just limits the ratios. He might get by outperforming some of the metrics there. But probably expect some regression in the ratios to be the smart thing to do. So I could see some people fading it for the next guy that we're going to be talking about here.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned where he's getting ADP right now, like right in front of him. Nestor Cortez, Luis Severino, Hunter Green, right after him, Kyle Wright, Blake Snell, Nick Lodell, all within like 5 or 6 picks of them. They're all in that little range, like you said, next breakouts or bounce backs or interesting realm of pitching options there. But you mentioned the next guy. This is what's fun about Seattle is like forever it seemed like they had really good pitching and the offense was kind of, not there, or really good offense, and you had Felix Hernandez. It's like, what are we going to do? Got both now because now you're 4 deep in this rotation. It goes with George Kirby, who really, like, there was a bunch of high hopes for him obviously coming in, but 130 really good innings, it felt like, or overall really good season in the end. And how do you foresee him in 2023 maybe taking the next step as well?
Yeah, George Kirby and Logan Gilbert, similar model, right? Control the strike zone, limit the walks, don't give up a ton of home runs, really good four-seamer fastball. Just Kirby, we know the story with Kirby, just had a ton, like a ridiculously low walk rate throughout his rookie and college, seasons that kind of stood out. Like Gilbert, Kirby's four-seamer is his best pitch. There are times I think early in one of his debut starts where I tried to watch, a little bit more of his starts, and he was just painting, just like throwing the four-seamer wherever you wanted. Felt like maybe a little too reliant on the fastball at times, but if he's confident in that pitch and it's kind of one of his best pitches, I can see that. So I think like Kirby or like Gilbert, I think if Kirby can kind of develop a little bit of some of the secondaries, and I think there's maybe if the results don't show up, I think he's probably going to build upon adding a more effective breaking pitch or something along those lines. I think we could definitely see a leap up, if we're expecting a similar workload jump to something like Gilbert from 2021 to 2022. That might be a little too much, for someone like Kirby. I think more of like the 140, 150 range, like he's kind of projected, is probably more reasonable. So with that, you're probably, if you're only getting like 150, innings pitch, if I'm shooting on the high end and you're getting pretty good ratios, you're looking at Drew Rasmussen type of guy, kind of guy, like, that's the kind of pitcher you're looking for, I think. So he's probably going to have to be pretty efficient. Now if you're projecting more volume, that's where, I think he's just going to be kind of like a per inning, basis, he's going to be like quality, right? So I think that's kind of what we're looking at with this kind of guy. Definitely a command over stuff pitcher, but I think the Mariners could kind of develop his stuff a little more, and or maybe maybe he might be like Gilbert, like I said, where outperforms some of the expected metrics and pitches better than what some of the data might indicate. So
Yeah, it's interesting looking at Castillo's in a world of his own come ADP, but Robbie Ray's at 98, Gilbert's at 113, and Kirby's at 93. So Kirby's going ahead of Robbie Ray and like 20 picks ahead of Logan Gilbert. So people are on the Kirby train, and it's probably why I don't have many shares of Kirby yet, and I have more shares of Gilbert and Ray at this point in time. But interesting set of starting pitchers there in Seattle. Let's go to the bullpen now. It's a very, very good bullpen. As we know, Paul Sewald has been outstanding when he's either in the high leverage or the closing duty. He's done a little bit of both. He was the primary closer when all things were said and done last year. But you have like Andres Munoz, you have Diego Castillo. Brash might be better in the bullpen. How are you assessing this bullpen situation with Seattle, who at times it was just kind of like all about leverage and not really caring about a designated closer? And then there's other parts of the year where I feel like it was Paul's job, and that's about it.
yeah, Paul Sewell definitely wasn't as dominant last year. K minus BB was at over 30% in 2021. Still respectable, 22.7% in 2022. Home runs are a problem with Sewell. You can't come in and average 1.4 home run per nine. As a closer, right? You're kind of trying to limit the walks, limit the home runs there. Like you said, the Mariners are definitely willing to share those save opportunities with other bullpen arms. I think Andres Munoz is probably the most skilled reliever in that bullpen, just in terms of stuff and, just closer type, arsenal as well, or just like a, nasty fastball touches or reaches over 100 miles per hour on a regular basis, filthy slider too. Obviously the market's kind of picked up on that. I think Munoz has the edge in terms of ADP for the Mariners uh, closer role or shared closer roles. So I'd probably lead Munoz just kind of based on some skills there. Uh, part of it lingers in my mind that maybe he's like a Devin Williams, where maybe he's just a skilled reliever that like maybe he might not lock down the closer role, but could still have some value. But I think by the end of the season, Munoz could definitely take over that. Diego Castillo, I used to be into him. He's kind of up and down. He's had some of his issues. Matt Fessler's a fun name, but probably just more of a, sixth, seventh inning kind of bullpen guy. Matt Brash is another guy. Yeah. We remember those, whatever the first couple starts were just straight filth. But, when the command's poor and you walk too many batters, then we become a problem. But, the only interesting note on Brash, I think, that's kind of notable is obviously the K minus BB drastically improved from 2.1% as a starter to over 21% as a reliever. But and as a reliever, he relied more on the slider. He kind of lowered the four seamer. The slider is pretty filthy, so that just kind of something notable that they kind of made a change for him when he went to the bullpen. I think I saw, it might have been like a bold predictions article in Athletic or something. One of the beat writers, I think he mentioned something about like maybe Brash could, possibly make it his way into the rotation by the end of the season or something. It's kind of a bold call. I could see that happening. Marco Gonzalez is as safe as it gets, but if Matt Brash can develop into filthy fifth starter, I mean, I'll take that any day. So.
Or you could almost put Brash with Marco into like an opener situation, and because it took like two different righty lefty, two different complete styles of pitching, like that could be a whole loop there too. So it's funny you mentioned Marco. I was doing some quality starts digging recently, and of all the guys that showed up on back-to-back seasons of putting up like decent quality start numbers, Marco Gonzalez is on the list just because he's boring and just like puts it together, and it's nothing fancy, doesn't strike guys out, but he gets you like 6 and 3 every time.
Yeah, he just eats innings. Yeah, strikeout rate sucks, but more real life value than fantasy, probably.
100%. Before we head out of here, let's talk prospects. Some teams have some pretty relevant prospects, some don't. How are the Seattle Mariners looking in 2023?
Yeah, I think in terms of ETA standpoint, I don't think there's a ton of, fantasy impact type prospects that are going to be coming up in the Mariners. I think we kind of had some of that wave already. Obviously they've traded some other bigger names away, like Noel V. Marte and Brandon Williamson on the pitcher end to the Reds and stuff like that. So, some of those guys might not be there. Like I said, the depth isn't that great. I was kind of mostly looking at players on the 40 man because that seems like a little more actionable at this point. Cooper Hummel, I mean, felt like a name that came up last year. I think didn't he have like catcher eligibility or something or
Yep.
something
Yep.
like
Yes,
that?
he
So,
did.
but he doesn't have catcher eligibility anymore, so maybe he's less relevant. He doesn't chase a ton. He's got a little bit of power and speed. But again, it's just there's not a ton of depth there. Evan White, I liked him kind of heading, when he first came up there, had some buzz, had a pretty good barrel rate, some max EV in 2020, but battled some injuries. I think he was like a defensive first baseman. So, but Ty Francis kind of got that locked down there. So, he probably got to be platoon at some point. Um, yeah, the only other guy, and I don't even know if he's relevant, but he just kind of popped in my mind when I was searching through. I was like, I'll be honest, I'm not too locked in all these Mariners prospects. I only have the capacity for knowing
Yeah,
so many
I got
players.
you. Yep.
There was even a player, I think I did another Mariners pod last year, and there was a guy like uh his nickname was like A-Rod or something like something, and I was just like Dave Eddy put him on the list, and I was just like, I don't even, it was Alberto Rodriguez. So it looks like he might have got DFA'd, but he was just like a dude that I was like, I don't know what you want me to say about this guy,
Yep.
but I got no clue other than staring at his Fangraphs page.
That's
Um,
funny.
but here's the I don't say unknown because obviously some of the prospect guys know about this guy, but Prelander Burrow, I'm probably totally butchering, but this guy's on the 40-man roster. He's a pitcher. He's got filthy strikeout stuff, but the walk rate has been awful, 17%. Definitely stuff for command guy. So I was trying to look over some of the prospect live notes and some of the scouting reports there. It's kind of rare that you see a guy with a 70-80 grade fastball and slider, but commands 40 grades. So that
Not
tells
good.
us that probably might turn into a reliever, most likely, or something's really got to change. But stuff's pretty electric. If you watch, I see a few highlights. Touches about 102. Touch triple digits pretty often with the fastball. Slider's pretty filthy. But yeah, the command and kind of efficiency with the walks are probably a problem. Again, just a name that's on the 40 man, in case you see this guy that his name is Prelander Baroa pop up in AA. It looks like he was traded from the Giants at one point. So,
Of course. That means you'll
um,
probably be pretty good. So you'll be
yeah,
good. You'll be good to go there.
yeah.
They'll figure it out.
Donovan Walton is Donovan Walton.
Is he still around?
that,
I remember that.
that, that,
I heard that
that,
name.
that was the transaction, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I have no
so,
idea. Yeah. It's the Giants are a whole nother world of question marks for me these days. That's just what are they doing right now? But we'll see. The Burrow one could be interesting just for the fact that if he is that going to get any kind of command, he could have some kind of bullpen role at some point in time that could make things kind of interesting, like you said, for deeper leagues and whatnot. That could be a fun one if people keep an eye on that. But yeah, not a ton of prospects for this season. That's a theme with a bunch of teams right now that are kind of on the cusp of going for it. They've, like you said, they've either traded them or they're up already. So they've kind of gone through that slew. They're not in the as much rebuilding process as one would say, but they're loaded. They got that big four starting pitchers for sure. They got bats, especially at the top of the order. The depth is the question mark. Just for fun here, because they did make the playoffs last year. I think most of everyone that wasn't rooting was rooting for them, basically, because they're just a fun team, and that was just a heartbreaker series. Like, it was just crazy. Um, how do you, like, just as a fan, put your fan hat on? This is an analyst fan hat. What are your expectations this year?
well, I don't like that the Rangers are making so many free agency moves.
Yeah, they're actually getting
um,
competitive right now. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So they've got some pretty legit guys that could be add to the competition there. I mean, Astros are still going to be the team to beat. Unfortunately, Athletics definitely kind of in the bottom dwellers. They're gonna have to rebuild there. I think again, I think 2022 definitely exceeded my expectations. It kind of we needed Julio Rodriguez to hit. I'm just trying to backtrack, right? It's like we needed this to hit. We needed George Kirby and Logan Gilbert to kind of be who they are. Castillo was, a gift, obviously, to get a ace type guy like that. Um, I think we need a little more depth. Somehow the Astros just keep churning out depth like Jeremy Pena and all these guys coming up here. So I think we definitely need some depth and hopefully a little more reliable. The bullpen's been good, but they don't have like a lockdown closer like a Ryan Presley or somebody that you feel really really good about. I mean, even in that final game that they lost, it was like extra innings. Like every every reliever they put out that wasn't Munoz or Seawald, it was just like holding my breath. Just like I could walk a guy,
Yeah.
could just end the game. And whereas I think was it Luis Garcia? Yeah, it was Luis Garcia, right?
Mhm.
He was coming in, and I'm like, this is unfair when they're
Yeah.
throwing out their third starter or
And
whatever
he can go
here.
multiple innings and do his
Yeah,
thing. It's just like, yeah, this isn't right.
this is cheating. The
Yeah.
game is pretty much over. Yeah, I think playoffs are in the picture. I think we're gonna need some depth. I think it's unlikely to expect that all of these players are gonna stay healthy. Unless Kalenic hits or something. That'd be great, but realistic standpoint, I haven't been around here for the Mariners for too long, but I've been around long enough for 15 plus years that I realize that keep your expectations in check. So just kind of enjoy the ride and don't get too high there. But it definitely feels good. I told some of my friends I felt like 2022 might have been a year early, right? Like I felt like 2023 would have been the year. So the fact that they had some success, a little bit of taste of playoff stuff, I think they'll be in the playoffs. But there's a lot of American League teams that are pretty competitive. So
Yep.
I think it's hard. I mean, you can laugh about the Red Sox, but there could be a wild card team.
Mhm.
Yankees aren't afraid to add anybody. Blue Jays, are up there too. And AL Central always somehow they always find a couple competitive teams
Make it
that
interesting. They always make
yeah,
it
yeah. So
interesting.
I think it's hard. They're just, but I like the core. I think we need more depth though. That's definitely a concern. Is the depth beyond the starting lineup? So
Well, you got one of the best GMs in baseball when it comes to adding depth. So he'll find some way to do something. It might be an interesting trade because we've seen that before too. Like, wow, you're trading this guy away. But, hey, it works out in the end. So we'll see how it goes with him. But Corbin, I appreciate it, man. This was fun chatting with you, talking some Mariners baseball. Before we log out of here, remind everybody what you got coming up and where they can find you.
yeah, thanks for having me on. Good chatting with you. You can find me on Twitter, Corbin_Young21. Like I said, right now, the most actionable thing I've got coming up is the Facts and Flukes article for Baseball HQ. Slowly rolling out that schedule. I think my first one will come out next week. Then after that, yeah, in February. So we'll be picking up pretty much every week. Probably the same on your end with playing time and stuff like that. So yeah, pace will be picking up here in the off season. I might throw some extra, deep dives here. Personal blog or something here and there, just kind of put out some research there. But
Sweet.
just kind of the fun of it, doing some of the research and sharing it out there. And yeah, so
Yep.
thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. Looking forward to seeing it. I love your content, so keep it coming. Everybody, if you're not following him yet, check him out again on Twitter at Corbin_Young21. This was your Benched with Bubba Seattle Mariners season preview with Corbin Young. Catch you guys next time.